Have you ever wondered, what if an application is fully secure, with no bugs, no vulnerabilities, and still gets exploited? What if nothing is hacked, but everything still gets broken? Well, that's exactly what we're going to explore today. Because in modern cybersecurity, not all attacks break systems. Some attacks break logic. And that brings us into today's topic, business logic attacks, breaking app rules in ways most people never expect. Now, before we go deeper, welcome to Bluehat Cybersec Academy. Modern applications are not just simple programs anymore. They are complex systems of rules, workflows, validations, and user interactions. These rules, collectively known as business logic, define how an application is supposed to behave. But here's something important you need to understand right away. Even when an application is technically secure, its logic can still be broken. And that's exactly where business logic attacks come in. So what exactly are business logic attacks? A business logic attack happens when an attacker manipulates the intended workflow of an application to achieve unintended outcomes. Instead of breaking into a system, the attacker simply uses the system in ways it was never designed to handle correctly. Think of it like this. The application is a bank vault with a strong lock, strong technical security. But instead of picking the lock, the attacker convinces the system that they're allowed to take the money. No force, no hacking tools, just broken assumptions. These attacks don't break encryption or firewalls. They break rules. Now, the next question is obvious. Why are business logic attacks so dangerous? Business logic vulnerabilities are especially dangerous for a few key reasons. First, they often bypass traditional security tools like firewalls and scanners. Second, they look like legitimate user actions. Nothing seems malicious on the surface. Third, they are very hard to detect automatically. And fourth, they directly impact money, data integrity, and trust. In many real-world breaches, no system was technically hacked. Instead, the application was simply used incorrectly, in a way the developers never expected. To really understand this, let's walk through some common real-world examples. Imagine an e-commerce platform. This is where the first issue appears: price manipulation. The system calculates prices on the client side instead of the server. A user adds an item worth $500. Before checkout, they modify hidden values or request data, and the system accepts the reduced price. Result? Financial loss, without any technical breach at all. Now let's move to another common case: coupon abuse. A user applies a 10% coupon, but the system allows multiple applications without restriction, or even worse, stacks invalid combinations that were never intended. Result? Revenue loss due to broken discount logic. Now consider something more structural. Broken workflow or skipping steps. Think of a job application system. It requires a sequence. First, fill the form, then upload your CV, next, pay the fee, and finally submit. But if the backend doesn't enforce this properly, well, a user might skip payment entirely or directly submit the application. The result? The entire process loses integrity. Now let's make it even more technical. Race conditions in transactions. Imagine a limited-time offer where only one redemption per user is allowed, but the system does not handle simultaneous requests properly. So, a user sends multiple requests at the same time, and before the system updates the state, all of them get processed. The result? Multiple unauthorized redemptions. And finally, role or permission logic flaws. A system checks user roles only on the front end. A normal user then sends direct back-end requests. And suddenly, admin-level functions become accessible. The result? Privilege escalation, without any traditional exploit. Now, the natural question is, why do these vulnerabilities happen in the first place? Most business logic flaws don't happen because of bad coding alone. They happen because of assumptions. Let's break that down. First, trusting the client side. Developers assume front-end validations are enough. They're not. Second, missing server-side enforcement. Critical rules are not enforced on the back end. That's where they should always live. Third, oversimplified assumptions like, users won't repeat this action, no one will skip this step, requests will always come in order. In security terms, these assumptions are dangerous. And fourth, complex workflows. The more complex the system becomes, the more places logic can break. So how do attackers think when they try to exploit this? Attackers don't start by looking for bugs. They start by thinking in patterns. They ask questions like, what happens if I skip this step? What if I repeat this action multiple times? What if I change values that shouldn't be editable? What if I send requests in a different order? They don't break code. They bend logic boundaries. Now, when it comes to detecting business logic vulnerabilities, these issues are rarely found by automated tools. Instead, detection requires manual thinking. It involves carefully testing workflows, simulating unexpected user behavior, reviewing full end-to-end processes, and testing edge cases and abnormal sequences. Security professionals often say something simple but powerful. If a system can be used incorrectly, someone will eventually use it that way. So, how do we prevent business logic attacks? Prevention is not about adding more tools. It's really about better design. First, enforce everything on the server. Never trust the client side. Not calculations, not validations, not hidden fields. Everything critical must be validated on the back end. Second, define clear business rules. Every system should clearly define what is allowed, what is not allowed, and what sequence must be followed. If rules are unclear, they will be exploited. Third, validate workflow states and use strict control. For example, you cannot pay before creating an order, and you cannot submit before verification. Order matters, and it must be enforced. Fourth, prevent race conditions by using proper handling techniques like atomic transactions, locks or queues, and idempotent operations. This prevents duplicate or conflicting actions. Fifth, implement strict role checks. Authorization must be enforced on every request, on the server side, not just in the UI. And sixth, perform abuse case testing. Don't just test what should happen, test what should not happen. Try invalid sequences, rapid repeated actions, skipping steps, and unexpected combinations. Now, stepping back for a moment. The mindset shift here is extremely important. Traditional security focuses on things like encryption, authentication, and network protection. But business logic security is different. It focuses on human behavior, workflow integrity, and system assumptions. A secure system isn't just one that blocks attacks. It's one that behaves correctly, even when users behave incorrectly. So let's wrap this up. Business logic attacks are among the most underestimated threats in application security. They don't rely on advanced hacking tools. They rely on something much simpler, understanding how an application thinks, and then making it think incorrectly. As systems grow more complex, these vulnerabilities don't disappear. They multiply. And the strongest defense is not just technical protection. It's designing rules that cannot be bent, skipped, or misused, no matter how creative the user becomes. Now here's a challenge for you. Think like an attacker for a moment. What would happen if a payment system allowed users to resend the same request multiple times? Can you think of an application where skipping a single step might completely break its security model? Why do you think front-end only validation is considered dangerous in security design? And if you were testing an app, how would you try to break its workflow without using any hacking tools? Pause for a moment and think about it. Because real security understanding starts when you stop thinking like a user and start thinking like an attacker. And if you found this breakdown insightful, and you're learning advanced exploitation concepts like this, then you're already on the right path in cybersecurity. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into real-world attack techniques and defensive thinking. And don't forget to check out the full playlist, Advanced Hacking, Attacks and Exploitation, because in cybersecurity, understanding how systems break is the first step to learning how to protect them.